Okay.
Give it a minute. This thing takes forever to load. So we'll jam. We'll talk a little bit about what you're doing for me, what I've seen you do for some other people. I'll probably ask you some questions.
Okay.
And we'll let people get in here. I usually give it a couple seconds to let people start. Oh, here they come. Here they come. Mallory. Of course, Mallory.
Hey, Mallory.
She wants to hear more about lobsters. She loves lobsters. I don't get it. All right. Cool. So we're here this is just in the group. Sometimes we do them in the page. Sometimes we do it in the group. If you're in the group right now, this is just for you guys. There is a link in the vault to hop onto this Zoom and ask questions afterward. How much Q&A time we have is just going to depend on how long this takes. But we're sitting here with Tim. And one of the things I do in the vault here is we've been in this ecosystem of internet marketing or any industry gets super myopic about how they acquire clients, how they pay for traffic, how they do organic, blah, 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 blah. And I try to bring on people that they maybe have a different perspective, right? And so Tim, what you do and what you've done, I'm just going to brag on you a little bit. Tim came on early in the early stages of HostGator and helped grow it to whatever 300 million or whatever it sold for. Right now he's sitting in the office he's in now. It's actually the same office I'm in. Does a few million a month or a few million a year off of a $6 subscription, right? So he didn't acquire all that with a webinar to high ticket sales. It takes a special kind of business acumen to build a $6 subscription to millions a year. I know you've done some e-com stuff. I've actually seen shipments go out of here all the time. Really, really successful on eBay, Amazon, even Walmart, all that, right?
Yep.
You do some venture capital stuff, right? Have a few $100,000 or whatever tied into companies. And so what you bring, and why I wanted to bring you on here, is a different perspective. And for everybody listening, my positioning and what I talk about, and with our partnership with the Abraham Group, we always talk about the Parthenon, the pillars, right? All these pillars of which your business stands on. And your company is called Profit Layer, right? So I have my pillars, and what you bring and what you have is your layers, right? The different layers of
yeah. So it's similar concept, just different phrasing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so where we get we spend a lot of time together, and where we are very, very similar is it's not all about this front end vanity metric, whatever internet marketing is doing right now. It's really about, what does this mean, obviously right now, but also what does this mean 5 years from now? What does this mean for my business? What does this mean for my employees? You have to deal with shipping. What does this mean, for supply chain, shipping, receiving? It's really, you really bake in this, just the holistic business view, which is missing from a lot of stuff out there right now. Right now, it's just acquire customers and figure it out later. And they never get around to figuring it out later, right? So that's why I want to bring you on here, because especially because we're doing this live on Facebook, the thing that I love, there's a few kinds of people I love to bring to you, like anybody in tech, anybody with SaaS software, anything where like big data and technology is involved. But also, I love bringing service providers that have phenomenal services. They've done well on Facebook, and they are standing on that one pillar. And every now and then it gets a little shaky, because who knows what Facebook's going to do tomorrow, right? And what I'm able to do is I'm able to say, hey, look, I work with them on model, message, all that stuff, and then introduce, hey, you got to talk to Tim. Because if anybody can figure out how to give you 3, 4, 5, 6 more legs to stand on and acquire high quality clients for much, much cheaper and more creatively, and really even the way you get insight on prospects and customers that people don't even know, like way beyond Facebook audience insights, right? And so that's why I want to hear. I really want people to talk about, and everybody wants to know. They see me, they see Steve Sims, they see Trust Accelerator, they see our banners everywhere. And the first thought is like, man, how much money are they spending, right?
Yeah. Well, they're on CNN.com, ESPN.com,
Yep.
all these major sites.
I get screenshots of people like, why is your face on ESPN.com? Right. And how much did that cost? And the answer is pennies or fractions of a penny on the dollar for what it costs to get in front of people on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't mind, Sonny's in here. Sonny, what's up? Tell us a little bit about how you got started and how you've built your businesses and how that might give you a different perspective or insight than what the people on here are used to or have been introduced to.
Yeah. Well, I think like ultimately, one of the biggest things is just that there's a huge difference between creating a course to teach different concepts and actually building a profitable, sustainable business based on those. And so I've really learned, everything that I've learned just through building my own companies, and that's everything from small companies, first business when I was 13, been an entrepreneur since, all the way up, obviously part of HostGator, we grew that to crazy amounts. And it was also a low cost subscription service. The average ticket price was about $15 a month. We just hosted millions of websites though. So, I've kind of been through that. And then with, the current business, like you said, $6 a month, but I have customers that have been with us for 12 years, so retaining them. And so I think like, that's probably the reason that I view things a little bit differently sometimes is that I'm looking at actually, obviously the marketing and the tactics and all the fun stuff like that, but at the same time, doing it in a way that's profitable, makes sense. And just, combining the business layer with the marketing layer and to figure out what combinations make sense for each business because it's always different.
Yeah, I think that's a super important distinction is that like people now making money is not owning a business. Okay. So people now are learning how to make money by marketing and selling. And that's fine because when you think about a business, think about a real business, anyone that you've owned. I've had a few brick and mortar, we work with Jeff, who had a $35 million seafood. Like if you only market and sell, you're out of business really, really quick. You got supply chain, net 30, net 90, like real business is not sales and marketing. That is how you get people into the business. But there's also like this onboarding process. Sometimes there's supply chain, there's the finances that nobody ever figures out. There's operations. And then as those things get worked out, there's these feedback loops and these learning systems, right? That actually affect what you should do in your marketing, right? And nobody's ever taught that. They just market and sell and then find out. Typically they find something that works, let's say Facebook. And when Facebook makes you money for the first time and you never taught anything else, you just keep banging your head. You spend more, you spend more, you spend more. You try new audiences. You start coming up with crazy audience combinations and like crazy ad copy. When the truth is, and then this is something I think we know, like we understand intellectually, but until you and I started really working together, sometimes a better use is to take a little bit of that time, effort, and money and try a channel, especially like you find networks. And I want you to show people how many networks there are. You find networks that aren't saturated, but make a whole lot of sense for this particular offer.
Right.
And so that's just like, it's frustrating to me when people like the only way to build my business has been just triple down on this one network with this one method. And then that's why I want to bring you on, just open up the possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, I think with that, it's really ultimately, I mean, pretty much any ad network is going to work. It's just a matter of like how much time and money you're going to spend on it to make it work. whether it's saturation or it's just lower quality, higher quality. I mean, it all starts though with really just having, a good offer, something that, solving a real problem. Like, you talk about that a lot here. And that's really a fundamental thing. I mean, there's no way that anyone is going to be able to really market their way out of not having a good offer or a good product. So that's kind of the first pillar there that really has to be in place. And then once you have it, it's a matter of just really looking at where your potential customers are, and generally most people can make some educated guesses and, start, if it's Facebook, the keywords, the interest targeting, things like that, and the thing is though, it's all about just like where your potential customers are. Because the platform, people get really caught up in the platform. Is it Facebook? Is it Google? Is it LinkedIn? Is it another ad network, one of the content networks? And the reality is at the end of the day, they're all doing the same thing. They're just getting you in front of your potential customers and you're presenting your offer on them. So I do get into a lot of tactics and, that's just something that I enjoy, experimenting with things. But the problem with tactics and specific networks is that they are always changing. And a tactic that works now may not work in 6 months because, say, if it's a Facebook tactic or a Google tactic or whatever, the algorithm might change and then you would have to adapt. Now, what that doesn't mean, though, is that Facebook ads worked and now they don't, or Google ads worked and now they don't. And some people think that that's the case because maybe their costs have skyrocketed on Facebook. And so the assumption is well, this is not going to work anymore. So I have to go to another network. And that's not really true because it's probably just that something in the algorithms changed and there's going to be some trial and error to get it situated. Because the reality is all of the networks are always getting smarter, they're changing, and everything that they get as input, the algorithms just get smarter and try to optimize. So it's about what's going in and, the interests that are being targeted. So as an example with Facebook, we've seen some situations where it can kind of work for a while, but as you start to scale, the algorithms are getting massive amounts of data, when you're spending more and more money. So if you have things set to optimize for getting cheap leads instead of sales, then Facebook's going to get smarter and smarter the more money you spend at getting you very cheap leads because that's what you're telling it to do. And it's one of those things that it's doing its job because it's being told that. Now, the thing is, whenever these changes happen, you could just move on to another network and then 6 months later, they're probably going to make a change too, and you're just going to be in this hamster wheel, constantly changing. So what I like to do is just look at layers, because obviously within business, there are the different layers that you have to have all of them in order to make things work. You have to have the good offer, you have to have good fulfillment, good operations, all the layers. But then in marketing, in that layer, I look at it as why not have 10 layers of marketing in there? You can start with one and then add another. And, at the end of the day, you really set yourself up to have, so you're not depending on any one ad network or any one platform. So if they suspend your account, they change something stops working, there's an outage, whatever, you have a handful of other ad platforms that you're getting sales and leads from as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the key.
I'm going to give everybody just an example, super surface level. How many pixels do I have on my sites? 23, 24, 25?
Yeah. I think right now, you have 20 some pixels for different ad networks. And
so I do use, and this is an actionable thing, right? I do use Facebook. I think Facebook is the best audience builder, and I use video. But if they go Google me or they respond to one of my offers, a lot of offers I make verbally, and then they go enter it in their URL. And what I've done then is they've been pixeled on 25 different freaking networks. So if Facebook ever says, it's also really cheap when I verbalize the URL and they go do, because I don't get, like, they're not clicking on stuff, so Facebook doesn't know. But if Facebook shut down tomorrow, I have 20 other freaking networks that are collecting data, and we don't know. Maybe we don't know which one would work yet because we're not rapidly testing that. But I still have an audience. That same audience, those same people I have on YouTube, I have on Snapchat, I have on freaking Twitter, I have on obscure ad networks that people don't even think about. And I think it's really, really important that, like, it takes 10 minutes to place all those pixels, whether I use them or not. I'm really freaking happy that my audience is not just living on Facebook. And that's just it's one of the things that, like, it helps me sleep good at night, is just knowing that Tim's got my back if Facebook explodes. Yeah,
I mean, well, it's you know, the you know, like omnipresence and just being everywhere, because ultimately if you have a customer, the odds of them just being on one platform is pretty slim. So and you know, so retargeting, you know, is something that everyone should be doing. I mean, it's fairly simple to set up. Like you said, you know, 10 minutes or so, at least for the major ad networks. And most of them, you know, it's just a matter of registering for an ad account on the network. And then they'll have, you know, a pixel or something in there that it's just, you just copy and paste that into WordPress, ClickFunnels, Kartra, whatever you're using. There's a section for a tracking code. And I'll do a Loom video with that for everyone. And it's pretty easy to do that on all the networks, even if you are not spending money or advertising there. You can, but you don't have to. But it's like Nick said, you know, something, say, like, if you are already building that audience, you know, so everyone that enters into your hits one of your pages and enters into your marketing ecosystem through any channel, even if it's you verbally telling someone down the street to go to this website, or they hear you on a podcast, or they see something, you know, on offline mail, it doesn't matter how they come in, they click on an ad on any one of the networks, then we're basically behind the scenes flagging them, you know, and adding them to internal lists on all the other ad networks. So in a way, it's kind of like, you know, people are hesitant about giving their email out now. You know, people hate to opt into stuff because there's, you know, so many people have just abused that over time. And so this is all done, you know, kind of behind the scenes at the ad network level. And then, once someone comes into your ecosystem, start showing them ads everywhere, because typically what happens is, like, people need to have multiple exposures. And especially if you're promoting content or something, like with Nick as an example, you know, Nick obviously does a lot of content, you know, videos and things like that. And so there are a lot of people that, you know, we're tracking, like, they're watching his content, and are they actually engaging with it? How long are they watching videos? Are they watching portions of it? And we track all that. And then we can move those people to different lists. And so whenever we figure out that, you know, here are people that they seem to like what they are seeing in the videos because they keep watching them. So then we know, let's just start showing them a lot of ads everywhere, because they're probably in the market for what's being sold in those videos.
Yep.
You know?
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give some people sit down, and I could talk for 8 hours about what I've learned from you. Right. I'm going to give some of the things that I think are going to make people think differently and some paradigm shifts. Here are some things outside of Facebook that Tim can do, and you probably reach out to him. I'll show you how to do it. Let's say we only want to show ads to the ideal prospect because it's cheaper, they're going to convert higher, the ROI is higher, all that stuff, right? We can go and we can wait for Facebook to do its thing. Eventually, if you optimize for the right thing, it will figure it out. Or, for example, we have some big time clients that do big time speaking gigs, and you can say, hey, let's show ads. Like, give me the address and the time of that event that you spoke at. Now everybody there knows who you are and may buy from you. let's show ads to just the people using like this geolocation, this geo fence. Let's show ads just to the people that saw you on stage yesterday.
Yeah.
And we can do that. And it's going to be way cheaper than hitting those people by casting a wide net on Facebook and paying for all that learning.
And one thing with the geofencing, there are different types of ad networks. I mean, I use both, but there are some that are proximity based. So that would be, they would be able to show the ad to people while they are there. But what I like to use even more, because it makes more sense and it's usually a lot more cost effective, is being able to go back in time. And so we can say, okay, there was a convention of, whatever profession happening, or someone was speaking at this date and time. So let's just flag all of the cell phones that were there. And now for the next few weeks after the event, after they're gone, the cell phones that were there at that time, if they've hit one of the major ad networks, then they're going to start seeing ads because they were there. Now, obviously, everyone that's there at that time, is not going to necessarily be like, say, if it's a realtor convention, not necessarily be a realtor, because there are obviously other people at the locations as well. But there's a good chance that most of them are, and it's so cheap to do that even if it's 80%, 70%, it really doesn't matter, because it's so cheap. And so, so there's two things, but I think the important distinction is that the geofencing is not just real time. You can do that for proximity while people are there, but you can also do it after the event, so you could follow up and add them to a list that you could technically be following up with them for as long as you wanted to.
Yeah. So let's say I'm an ask, because I just talked to Ryan Levesque yesterday, right? So let's say I'm a specialist in the ask method, setting up the funnels and surveys and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan Levesque just gave a speech at a huge event. And I find myself thinking, man, if only I could have been there, or if only I could get my offer in front of those people. You can, right? And that's what I'm trying to just help people understand. Like, there's spending more money on Facebook is not the only way. If you step back and you say, man, who else do I want to get in front of? And there's some pretty cheap ways to do it.
Yeah. And with that example, just one quick thing too, is like, say, like if you are targeting people that are familiar with the ask method, you can use language that matches what that audience is interested in. So it's not just, you're getting in front of them, but you're also, how to speak their language because you're targeting specific people.
Yep. Another thing, another thing people don't use enough. I have another point here. I got to decide if I want to share it or not. But another thing, direct mail, right? People completely neglect direct mail. And I don't have it set up right now, but we've talked about if you go into the vault and you abandon cart, a day later, 2 days later, you get a postcard that says, hey, you abandoned your cart. I'll give you a free month if you enroll right now.
Yep.
Just stuff like that. How cheap is it to send super targeted direct mail, like 50 cents a postcard or something?
Yeah, so it's basically printing's really, really cheap. It's almost free. So it's really just the cost of postage. And there are tools to even automate that, where when someone does that, literally a postcard can be printed, personalized just for them based on their name, what was in the cart, and sent to them within 24 hours automatically. And in some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases, even if they don't provide an address, that postcard could still be mailed to them because some of the data providers can match them up. So like if you ever see, obviously like logging into sites, I'm sure everyone has seen like log in using your Facebook account, log in using your Google account, log in using your Amazon account. And yeah, it's convenient. Convenience is part of it, but here's the other thing. If you log into 3 different shopping sites, random sites, and buy something and ship it to the same address, and you're logged in using your Facebook profile, well, Facebook kind of assumes that there's a pretty good chance that address you've used multiple times in different places is probably your address. And so that's where the matching people up comes, even if they don't provide their address.
Yeah. Yep. And then there's I'm gonna tell a story real quick. What I'm gonna do after this, I'm gonna just tell people what my current strategy is and how I utilize what you can do. But we had somebody, and it was the first time I've ever seen this. I don't know why I didn't even think it was possible. Somebody said, "Hey, look, I got this offer. It helps college kids figure out their path. And Facebook's doing well, right? I pay this much per app. I pay this much for a phone call." And Tim said, "You said, well, what other websites do they visit?" And he had the list ready, right? Because I know that my best clients go to these websites, and you did whatever I call it, scraping traffic. I don't know what the actual,
it's not really scraping, but yeah.
I don't know better. So I just call it scraping. And what happens next day or 2 days later, he like messaged me and he says, "What the hell did Tim do? I got 6 apps overnight." And I mean, he averages, maybe 1 or 2 a day. And he goes, "How much did he spend?" And I said, "Tim, how much did he spend?" And you were like, "I don't know, $11."
Yeah, I wasn't really even trying. I was just playing, And what the key with that though is that he knew very specifically where his potential audience is, and that could be websites, it could be places that they visit offline, places that they visit online. It could be YouTube channels, like if you have a competitor that has a YouTube channel and they have monetization on, most of them do, you can insert your ad right in the middle where it interrupts the video, so yeah, the key is, he had that. And so we were able to just, the technique that was actually used there. And, this is something that it's probably a little more complex, but the quick version is, there are different ad networks. There are thousands of them actually. Most people think they're just a handful, but there are thousands of them. Some of them have high quality traffic, some low, some, they're all different. And then the key is, if you know how to strategically use them for what you're trying to accomplish, you can maximize the return. So like this is, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is just like,
yep.
I keep this on my desk. This is just like a quick reference sheet of just like some of my go-to networks, so that when I'm evaluating offers, I can just kind of scan through and I'm like, okay, yeah, I know that one. And how do I put that together? So in this case, there are some ad networks that have traffic that is insanely inexpensive, that does like pop-ups, and a lot of people are like, well, that's low quality traffic, because pop-ups, a lot of browsers, block them. A lot of people don't see them, they close them really fast, whatever the case is, so one of the things that's very easy to do though is, because that traffic may just cost like half of a cent per pop-up or something like that. So we just basically go, put in a list of sites, or, that the audience is already visiting, or in my case, for my, I put in my competitors, for the service-based business, the phone service that I have, we put in that and then generate those cheap pop-ups. And again, it's not high quality traffic because it's pop-ups. The way that those happen is, because someone's typically like, they've installed a software that's ad-based or something like that, they've agreed to get pop-up ads or something like that. And so that traffic, obviously, it doesn't really matter to me if they see it or not, because I just know that it's so cheap and they're on my competitor sites or somewhere that is so targeted, that if I can just get that pop-up to come up for just a second, so that the pixels that we've placed in to start targeting people are hit, it doesn't matter if they see it or not, because now we've taken that half a cent pop-up and pixeled them for 20 other networks, including Google, Facebook, all the majors. And we can hit them now with retargeting ads on those higher quality premium networks at an insanely low cost, because we're targeting people that are already, specifically tagged on our list, retargeting.
Yeah. So
it's just the back door,
Yep. That's the short. I mean, the useful thing to me is that I could say, okay, look, I need to target somebody that is, maybe they're hiring salespeople or they're managing salespeople, right? Let's just show ads to people that hit Pipe Drive's website.
Yeah.
And so even if it's low quality, like low quality traffic going to the Pipe Drive's website is still our people.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to, freaking Pipe Drive if they don't have a business.
Yeah. And then if you track things well, which tracking's something we could do a whole call on sometime because there's so much to it. But if you track things well, even with the low quality traffic, you can find trends and find what's working and actually getting you sales. And then you have much better odds of going on, Facebook or Google or somewhere that may have more expensive, higher quality traffic using the exact same formula that you tested on a lower quality network. Because if the people are typically going to have the same behavior, across the board.
Yep. And so that's ultimately, like, it's huge in mitigating ad cost on Facebook, right? If you can build a list off of Facebook, we all do it, right? And then load it onto Facebook. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be higher quality. It's more targeted. And then on the flip side, I'm going to tell you guys what I do, because it's a little bit different. It's a combination of things and things that other people are doing. Plus, I know what Tim can do is I build an audience on Facebook, and I do it with video. And because it's super, super cheap, I get like 1 cent to get somebody to watch 10 seconds of my video. It costs like 90 cents to get somebody to watch.
Yeah. And one reason for that is that there are so many platforms now vying for market share, so with video, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook, everyone. So right now, one of the current trends of, again, everything's always changing. Video is very cheap right now. The ad networks are biasing it.
And so what I can do is I pay money. I put money behind my videos. Sometimes I just leave them organic, and Facebook builds a video view audience. And then really I only pay to show ads to people that have watched X% of my video, for example. But those ads, and this is what I'm telling you guys, is kind of my secret. It fits my style. I make those ads so irresistible. Like, I give stuff away. I just ridiculous, so that you click over. Because, like, is he really? Sometimes just curiosity. Like, is he really going to give all this away? Yeah. Click over, and I do. But now you're pixeled. And
and a key point is that you're spending money, even though it's very cheap. You're spending money promoting content, and a lot. I would say virtually all of your videos, are just content. You're not selling anything. You're not doing anything, and that's another way the networks are smart enough to know: is this an ad or is this a value, something that the audience actually is going to engage with and they get value from? And that's something that people really need to pay attention to right now, is just creating, that value and putting it out there and the goodwill out there. And then later when someone sees your ad, they already know, like, and trust you. You've already demonstrated your expertise. So so that's just a key thing. Is I think the key is, like, you, in your strategy, you're not running paid traffic to straight to ads. You do eventually at some point, but you're getting sales in a lot of cases just from free content, because you'll randomly have someone, hey, I've seen so many of your videos and it's all really cool. Like, what do you sell? How can I buy something from you?
Yep.
And it's,
Yep. And even, and that's the trick, right? Because this is where people don't have a profit layer. They don't have tail laying around. A lot of people are thinking that, and they're not ready to reach out, but that's okay, because they go to ESPN, they get hit with a banner, and they just make that decision right there. And you showed me the other day, I think we spent like $500 and got like 90,000 people clicking on banners. Like, that's insane. And they're hyper targeted, because we don't just show my banners to random people. It's people that have watched X amount of my content and then gone to X website. Yeah. And so it's goodwill. And then really I try to get the conversion on other platforms off of Facebook, because it's really expensive to optimize for convert. Not super expensive. It's still profitable. And we do it. Like, I have somebody run a Facebook ads for conversion now, but it would be silly to not, like, my strongest sales letters, my strongest conversion mechanisms. I don't think I have any running right now outside of the free trial stuff. But it's typically not on Facebook. I built the audience on Facebook. I got them to know me, like me, and trust me on Facebook. I put a lot of goodwill on Facebook because Facebook likes that stuff. And these cheaper ad networks is where I'm pushing to get them, push them over the fence and make a purchase.
Yeah. And with building the audiences too, another key point is that each ad network, even Facebook and Google, for example, vastly different, because if someone is on Facebook, you have to have that, really flashy ad to catch their attention, because they're at that moment, they're really just, they may be standing in line somewhere scrolling through their Facebook feed. They're not actually actively looking for anything. So that's where, to run a straight ad, you have to have a really strong call to action to get their attention. If someone goes to Google or even YouTube, and they search for something specific and they're actively looking for it, they're not going to go somewhere and search like, what is a realtor in San Antonio, if they're not looking for a realtor in San Antonio, but if they happen to see an ad for one somewhere else, they might just be someone that's not even in the market and they don't care about real estate, but they happen to see the ad. So it's the intent, and the key is like being able to look at the strengths and weaknesses and the biases like that of all the different ad networks and just kind of put them together in like a cohesive strategic way.
Yep. So you can, and I'm telling you guys now, because some people are doing really, really well on Facebook. Some people, or LinkedIn, or whatever, at YouTube, and they just see the returns diminishing as algorithms change, or they spend more money, or they optimize for the wrong thing, or it becomes saturated, whatever. I'm telling you, you can use your tool. If Facebook's your thing, cool. If YouTube's your thing, great. If LinkedIn's your thing, awesome. If AdWords is your thing, sweet, right? But you can layer in, see how I use the word layer, profit layer. You can layer in the geolocation, and it just adds to that audience, right? It makes the other platforms better. You can become omnipresent by using the platform you already use, just pixel stuff. And I think Tim will maybe do a training and a quick video for you guys on how.
Yeah, I'm going to make a loom for you guys on basic pixeling, some of the essential networks.
And you can use your platform. You don't have to change anything. A lot of people are worried about like completely pivoting. You don't have to change anything you're doing to add in direct mail, or maybe just change, like stack the deck a little bit and know, hey, this platform really likes video. This platform, they don't care. It's X per click no matter what, right? And really understand what each platform is doing. And you can build your super targeted audience using these different things, and it gets more and more targeted to the point where I have a pretty massive audience right now that they're an audience, they're an engaged audience. They watch X amount of video, they've clicked X amount of links, they've seen X amount of websites. And that's because all of these things are working together. I have a blog out there that's getting pixeled. People that just like to read my little blurbs about life, they're getting pixeled, right? They're not seeing my Facebook business ads, but we're still collecting the audience. It's still engaged. And it's just not, we don't spend much in advertising, because I just don't think you have to build a big receptive audience.
Yeah. And it's not to say that you can't. I mean, within, my own businesses, it's like, with Host Scooters, an example, we were spending 7-8 figures a month, depending on the month, but we were doing multiple things. We had a referral program, an affiliate program. We were on Google. We were on Facebook. Wasn't that big back then. We were on Yahoo. We were on all these different networks, and it all works together. So yeah, you can do it with money, but now it's really kind of a situation where a lot of the targeting that you can do now, and a lot of the ways that you can strategically put things together, we're in a different time than then, because back then, targeting and getting very specific, and big data and all that's been around for a very long time. It's something that Fortune 500s have been using for a very long time. Having it be accessible to small businesses, that's a relatively new thing, and so we're in a really interesting time where, we're able to get that same level of data and targeting.
Yeah, it's really cool. And again, I mean, it's like you said, you can do it with money, and we do,
Mhm.
but it goes back to like stacking the deck. If you are a little more strategic, your dollar goes a lot further.
Yep.
Um, that,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, if you have ads that are working that you're paying for, I mean, if you're comfortable, if you're profitable with those ads, leave them. I mean, you always want to try to optimize and get the costs down, but you don't turn them off. Because if you have, another tactic that works and you get people and it happens to be lower cost, that doesn't mean stop doing the one that costs more. The question is more just, are you still profitable and comfortable with the acquisition cost on both? Have them both,
and it's a plus. It really is a lot of what we do, and a lot of what I see you do. It's a plus sum game. It's like, hey, let's do these things, and there may not be an immediate return, or there may be, but it's also like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is right now. You don't want to be stuck 6 months from now when Facebook explodes, wishing you would have built this audience.
And think of
Just
audiences email lists.
yeah,
If you would have built an email list that specifically, and I'm not talking about just buying a random list of people, but a list of people that have opted in on your website and interacted with your content, obviously, the bigger the list, the better. So
yeah. Let me tell you one more thing before, because what we're gonna do, if you're in the vault, you go in, hit the link, you can hop on and ask questions for a couple minutes. But here's the other thing about using these strategies, which is not just bang your head up against the wall and pay a ton of money to get people to get your free lead magnet and try to convert them. Because like if it works, it works. It's fine. Part of since I've been working with Tim specifically, my email open rate. Hey, my email list grows every week. My email open rate has gone from about 29-30% to 41% average. So it's actually higher now. My rolling average is 41%. And that is because they are hyper engaged and they
yeah.
don't convert until they've been touched like 10 times.
Yeah. And one of the other key things with it too is just that when you're dealing with optimization in general, or more specific targeting, volume is not necessarily the key. Like you may see actually fewer people, on a list. What we're not talking about is just trying to get as much traffic as we possibly can. And that's the reason to use 10 different ad networks or whatever the case is. What we're saying is like get hyper targeted people. So technically it may mean that in your funnel, if you're tracking leads and you're tracking apps and things like that, those numbers may actually go down. But the thing is, like, let's say you're selling something, in high ticket that's like a $10,000 product or a $5,000 product. Would you, and if your lead cost goes from, $6 or $7 to 50, but you close like 1 out of 3, I mean, if you do the math, you're still much better off with fewer leads that
See,
are buyers.
that is the business acumen, right? It's not the front end vanity. And just this is one of the difference because Tim, Profit Layer is a done for you marketing agency. And one of the differences, and one of the reasons why I hesitate to send people to marketing agencies because there's a lot of blame shifting. And I'm just telling everybody here to look out for this, right? Because if your Facebook guy can just optimize for leads, and that's the vanity, look how many leads I got for, look how cheap I got, and that's what they can blame the salespeople if the leads are right. There's a lot of blame shifting. And there's a lot of like, there's not a typical Facebook ads manager they are not incentivized to be concerned about profit. They do not optimize for profit. You do naturally because that's just the way your brain works, and that's how this agency works. But just be aware of like, that's why I send so many people to you specifically is you're thinking like, yeah, I could get leads cheaper like this guy does, but the goal is the health and sustainability of your business.
Right.
It's not a whole bunch of leads. Those are two different things. And but if your job is to get leads, you don't really care about the other parts, right? So
and I would say that there is a lot of, in some cases, it's crazy the stuff that we see. It's crazy. Some agencies, that are charging, people are paying, you know, 10 grand a month to have their ads managed. And then you look at what's being done and it's like, they're doing the bare minimum, and like one of the things that, that I always look at it, since I'm looking at things from a business perspective, is, it's kind of like investments. If you work with an investment advisor that is commission based, and certain types of products or certain companies will pay a higher commission, there's kind of a little bit of a conflict of interest. They may be a little more biased towards the investment product that's going to pay them a commission.
Yep.
However, then there's also like, independent advisors that they're not commission based. You pay them a fee directly, and then they're going to find what is in your best interest for your business to manage your money appropriately. And I think one of the biggest things that Nic has, said in the beginning too, that's something that we really resonated on, not on the beginning of this training, but whenever he moved out here, was, he said that like, one of the biggest things that an ad manager or an agency should be doing is protecting your money. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many that it's like, well, if the agency's like, hey, let's spend less money, that kind of looks bad for them in some degree if they're just looking at that as a singular thing. But it's something that if the math is not working, and it's better to spend less money to get fewer leads, but you're still going to make more profit, then that's a completely different thing. And so it's like looking at like, it's like, like I see like as an agency, like I think that everyone that's in marketing really should look at their client accounts and look at it as like protecting that person's money that they are investing into ads, and just managing it like they have a duty and obligation to do what's best for their client.
Yeah. I have personally seen you put your own money into testing before using clients' money, right? And
I don't like to do unproven stuff, or I mean, I'm always about what is the minimum viable, and that's something in business, you typically will start a lot of projects, the minimum viable concept, and test it. And that's how I look at the other ad networks. I mean, because every business is a little unique, a little different. And so, I kind of have about a 90% feel on what I think will work, but we have to test it for each one. And I would rather lose money, and then, and learn, I just allocate in the agency, I just allocate an R&D budget essentially.
Yep. Here's questions that I would ask the people listening, that I would implore them to ask themselves. So when you look at who's running your marketing, maybe it's you, and this is still a question you have to have. What am I optimizing for, and what is the incentive? Because if you are incentivizing somebody to get cheap leads, they're not going to protect your money. They're just going to get cheap leads. And if they're bad leads, that's a whole, that sets off this like chain reaction of trying to figure out where things are broken. So it's, what are we optimizing for? Is it profit? Is it to keep people busy? Is it, is it leads? Is it vanity metrics? No judgment here, but you have to ask yourself, what are we optimizing for? And does the incentive make sense? We talk about that all the time, where like we see people come in and the person running their ads or doing their marketing is doing really goofy stuff, but they are being incentivized to inflate these numbers. So they're just
stay busy, because if they could get the same results just by not tweaking so much.
Yep.
And then the other thing too is it's also about the motives of the client. Because I've had clients before that, are just like, I really don't care if I'm not looking to make money with my ads. I just want to be everywhere. I want you to put me on a billboard in Times Square, which we can retarget people on billboards in Times Square.
Yep.
It's offline, online. So it's like, it's what, in that case, it's not necessarily the profit, but we have to be just mindful of like, what are the motives and goals of the client,
Yep. And so what we'll do is we're going to go dark. We're going to go dark on Facebook. I implore you, if you have somebody running your stuff now, happy to, I know that We have phenomenal Facebook guys around, happy to audit it, give some feedback. It's not even like steal the business. It's just like, here's what we see. Anytime you come to an office day, if you're in the vault and you get an office day, or if you're in the network, you can come anytime. Tim and I share an office. We talk about this stuff all the time. So if you're in the vault, you want to come hang out, just let me know. And if you're looking for done for you ads management, I'm going to protect Tim here, make sure I don't give him any bad leads. If you don't have a thing that converts, a sales page, a webinar, some sort of process, not the best choice for you, because it's, you have to have, you already have to have some sort of lead acquisition. But if you want to optimize and scale, just reach out to Tim, drop a comment on here. Happy to talk about it. I'm going to tell you something that the guy that runs the branding for like Victoria's Secret and a few other big companies told me. He said, hey, if you want to work with me, let me know. And he turned around and he said, never assume price. He said, there's a lot of people that I would work with, but they assume I am so expensive, they don't even ask. So we've had that before. Don't assume price. Happy to have a conversation. Tim, what's the best way to have a conversation with you about working with Profit Layer?
Yeah, the best thing, people can go to profitlayer.com, submit, their info to get on the list, and we'll, contact them if we have some openings. Right now, we definitely have openings for Facebook specifically, and we can, get on the list there. The other thing is they can always just post in the group or message on Facebook, and we'll see. But the key is we are not focused on 0 to 1 for brand new offers and stuff. So, but as long as you have an offer that is already converting to an extent, then we can scale it up. So that's really where our focus is.
Cool. We're going to go dark on Facebook. If you're in the vault, there's a link you can jump on. We got a couple minutes and we'll get around. I'll harass Tim until he gets some sort of training on how you can just place all these pixels and then go back to doing what you're doing. Don't stress about it. Just put them there so that they're there.
Yeah. And I'll put, sometime this month, I'll also do a video with just kind of a preview of some of the data that you can actually buy and stuff. It's something that there's so much out there in terms of data that you can get, everything from, is someone impulsive? Because you can determine that by if they fast forward a lot on their DVR from the cable company, things like that. There's all this data, but at the end of the day, it's like, that's really so custom that it depends on the offer that we didn't really want to get too deep in it, but happy to talk about it like for specific needs and situations.
Oh yeah. We could go for hours and hours. So we're going to go dark on Facebook. Zoom link is in the vault. I just sent it to Brandon Robertson because he asked for it.
Cool.
Let me stop.